They're there because they want to win.
And that's what people remember.
And it was just such a beautiful thing for the season.
If GW football had a program right now.
3 very strange words. Offensive line.
Less hits, less earned runs, less runs.
Give me an NFL contract, and I'll play 2 extra.
We'll call it hazard pay.
If anyone can spark them, it might be their coach, Mike Singletary.
It's kind of a pillow fight.
It's not going to be the end of the league because all the players are dead.
The show is also unstoppable because we've still got another segment left. You, unstoppable. You, stoppable today, which is, of course, the opposite of unstoppable.
Who's ready to play?
Good morning, good afternoon, good middle of the night sports fans. This is Unstoppable on GWTV, here from the 5th floor of the School of Media and Public Affairs here at GW. You're tuned into Channel 61. I'm your host, Chris Geissler, here with Andrew Hanks, long-time Unstoppable contestant and Unstoppable legend, and here with new contestant Chris Rossi making his first appearance here on Unstoppable. Best of luck to you. Welcome to the show. Hopefully it's easier than we forecasted. Huh? We're going to talk NFL, NCAA basketball, NBA, GW basketball, and the NHL today here on Unstoppable. So make sure you stick around for the entire show. Starting with the NFL, we're looking at the Final Four in the NFL season, but looking ahead to the Super Bowl. Who's winning it? Who's in it?
Well, Chris, I'm going to go with Packers versus Jets in the Super Bowl. It's a little bit of a risky pick. Not the most experienced.
Jets are winning the second time this year in Pittsburgh, is what you're telling me.
Yes, I'm taking both away teams. This tough game's coming up, but I think that you look at how both teams are playing, like the intangibles. You look at the Jets last week, coming off 2 great wins. You look at the Packers coming off 2 huge wins. I don't really give the Bears that much credit because they had the Seahawks at home, losing record, the weather. That's what the Bears love. So I just think, Packers, Jets, and I'll take the Packers to win. I think that their offense, especially, there's questions about their ground game, but missing Jermichael Finley, missing Barnett and Grant, they have a great offensive attack, and the air game's going to carry them.
So 6 seeds winning the Super Bowl?
I believe so. I mean, if the Seahawks can go past the first round, then
well, then
anything
can happen.
Anything can happen. Marshawn Lynch can have
the
the game-winning drive.
It can happen.
Yeah.
I like the Packers too. I like their defense playing extremely well at a high level right now. And the Jets are playing well too, but I don't think they can go into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers this week.
I mean, because they've already beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's just.
They're running out. They're running out of gas.
They're statistically not the better team, but I think it's a lot on Ben Roethlisberger. He's experienced. He's been here before. And you look at this team. I ultimately have the Steelers to go to the Super Bowl. You look at this team. They have the guys who have been there from the last 2 Super Bowl wins, and that win against the Jets, or that win where the Jets came in and beat them in Pittsburgh. They didn't have Polamalu. They didn't have Heath Miller for Roethlisberger to throw to, and I think that's going to be. They're definitely going to be
bringing those guys back. That's going to be the biggest difference.
It's going to be a battle of defenses with the Packers versus the Steelers. I just think that experienced offense will be able to play better. And you got to remember also Roethlisberger is a little bit more rested. He didn't start the first games of the season. So going this far, a lot of guys end up being banged up a little sore. Roethlisberger has 4 extra games where he never played. So I think that could actually be a contention, come into contention this game.
Now and you're picking the Packers over the Jets in the Super Bowl because of, is that Aaron Rodgers over Mark Sanchez?
I think it's a combination of things. I think where the teams just stack up head to head in every category, the Packers have an edge. You look at Rodgers recently; he's been out of this world. Look at the game against Philly, and the hottest team coming into the playoffs essentially. Michael Vick, MVP candidate. You're coming against Atlanta next, and he didn't. He went 10 for 10 on third down. Against Atlanta. He's really coming up big. He's coming into his own. And I think it's also, like you said, Andrew, it comes down to just basically defense, and I think whoever gets up for each game, and you look at the way Santonio, the catch he made, and the Jets will be there, but the Packers take the cake in that category.
But before we see the Super Bowl, we get the Pro Bowl this year, a change this year for instead of the Pro Bowl being the week after Super Bowl, it's the week before. It's that media week where there's no football. How do we feel about the Pro Bowl fitting in early?
I like it. They're going to get more viewers to watch, especially with I like the idea of they have the more in-access thing they're doing this year, where they're miking the coaches and letting you hear the plays. And the main argument against it is you don't want the players, there's going to be so many players dropping out who have potentially playing the Super Bowl. I don't really think comes to factor, especially because in the NFL this isn't meaning anything. So I like them moving it up. I think it's going to get better ratings. It's going to be just more enjoyable to watch.
What do you think?
I really haven't been a fan of this format. I think that the Pro Bowl, especially the way they approach it every year, makes a lot more sense after the Super Bowl, as more of an afterthought.
So in Hawaii, just afterwards, when
exactly,
but then nobody watches. We've all seen the Super Bowl the week before. We're ready for football season
to
be
go
over
back
at
to
that
Hawaii.
point.
I think it'd be nice in Hawaii.
So you're saying it's not worth the Super Bowl players missing it? Is basically.
Well, I
what
think
you're
it's
saying.
also just. Well, I mean, you take the Super Bowl players this week, or in the week that the Pro Bowl is.
So more hype for the Super Bowl is what you're saying. So instead of
exactly
spending the time
focus
on the Pro
Super Bowl,
more hype for the Super Bowl. Okay, I could see that. You know, I would have to say that the Steelers are probably a really good bet to take the Super Bowl at this point. I think the Packers are also a good bet. I agree with you that I think that the Jets have had to beat off two really good opponents already, and beating a third would be really tough, especially since they've already beaten Pittsburgh this year. Yeah, you could say that means they could do it, but I don't know. I do agree Pro Bowl should be early because I might actually watch it this year because I'll be in a football mood. First segment goes to Andrew. Next segment, NCAA basketball. There's been as always, some surprise teams on the up, surprise teams going the wrong direction. What do we think is the biggest positive surprise so far in the NCAA season?
I think that the biggest positive surprise is, as many would say, is Kemba Walker and his play. Coming into the season, I don't think many people thought that he would have what it takes to put up games like, you know, in the 40-point games, 30-point games consistently. He's explosive, and you have to remember this is a 6'1" guard here. This isn't just like
Blake
freak
Griffin
of
in high
nature,
school.
Blake Griffin
in
not
college,
LeBron.
and yeah.
I mean, he's averaging like 25 points a game. He's shooting 50% from field, from the field, 40% from free throw. I mean, he's playing like an NBA player already and putting up the numbers to match it.
Yeah, I like Kemba Walker too because he is the only reason UConn is where they are right
That's
now.
that's
They are in the
true.
rebuilding stage. You know, no one thought they'd have the season like,
No
but I like
anymore.
Jimmy Fredette getting all
Jimmy Fredette is
getting
incredible.
You know, a lot of people knew about him last year. I knew about him. I liked watching it, especially in the Mountain West Conference.
Yep.
Is a little bit more competitive this year, but he's finally getting the love he deserves. Putting up amazing numbers. I think about 27 points per game, and that's been a lot of fun to watch.
Would you say it's a surprise though? I think a lot of people expected him to put up big numbers heading into the season. The people that heard about him.
I think it's a surprise though. It's a good surprise that
he's
been getting this national press.
You're right.
And also I think it's a surprise that Purdue has not slipped as far as they have, losing Robbie Hummel. Because remember, 2 years ago, he was one of the best defensive players in college.
Oh, yeah.
And they have been, you know, they're on a 2-game losing streak, I think, right now. But they're still in the top 25. They're still competitive. So I think that's a huge surprise, too.
What about the biggest negative surprise, something we didn't expect coming into the season that's been really, really down?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Big Ten and Purdue because I think that part of the reason they've been able to stay afloat is because of just the overall weakness of the conference. Like Ohio State and Purdue have been playing well, but Michigan State is my biggest negative surprise. I think that they came into the season projected top 10 team.
Yeah.
You know, they have Summers, Lucas, Green. These are great players. This team's supposed to be exciting, and they lose the guy. I mean, they've lost to Texas, they've lost to Syracuse, some decent teams. I mean, Texas is playing very well, but
they had a tough preseason schedule too.
They did. They had a tough schedule. Penn State and Illinois, you got to get past those two.
Illinois was top 25 coming into the season. They have one of the best home field advantages any place in college.
That's true.
I think losing to Illinois is not hurting them at all because they are a top-ranked team.
Penn State.
They're still Penn State. I think
got to win the Big Ten.
The Big Ten has its weak parts. Penn State though, you know, is better than last year.
That's
you know,
true.
so
That's true.
And Taylor Battle,
this is a top
he's the
5
top
team
player.
essentially.
He can beat him. He can beat any team, I believe. You know, personally, you watch any of those games, they have no one else, and they have no bench, and that's why they lose all the time. But he's a star player.
Okay, so who's been a bigger negative surprise then?
I think the freshman Harrison Barnes down at UNC.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the next John Wall.
He was
remember
supposed to
at the
really
beginning of the season,
get them
he
out
was
of the
supposed to
gutter.
come
Haven't
in,
heard anything.
and you know, he's putting up about 10 points a game, but it's not anywhere you want. And
He's not John Wall.
Yeah, it's interesting now. This league this year, you know, we had the last few years, a lot of superstars. John Wall took college basketball by storm last year. This year, we don't really have anyone. Kemba Walker is probably the closest guy we've talked about.
And Jimmer Fredette are probably the other one, but nobody really sees him.
There's not really, you know, a leading star who's going to be the #1 draft pick.
There's no Mello at Cuse kind of thing.
No Mello Wade.
No Blake
draft.
Griffin, you know, or Odom.
So would you say that's a reflection on the whole season in terms of just makes it just a
I think it's disappointing in the terms of fans watching the games possibly.
Well, it could be the field's getting better, you know, overall.
It could be the field's getting better. I just think that's a little thing this year that they have that there's no one really to go to. It's strange, and then also like the continuous all NCAA teams, disappointing NCAA violations at Calipari every year. He seems to get it. Down in Virginia, or not Virginia, the Volunteers in Tennessee. Bruce Paul at the beginning of the year got a bunch of different violations, and I just hate seeing that. It's always in the news.
It's true.
Every single college sport.
Yeah, no, that's
That's a problem
absolutely
for
true. I think you'd have to look at something like Kentucky and Enes Kanter not being able to play this season.
Yeah.
I think that's something you could look at as a negative surprise because we were all expecting to see big things. So that's something I think that you point to and say that could have worked out better. That's a tough segment to award. I'd say that Kimball Walker is probably a really good choice for biggest positive surprise. I mean, he and really Jimmer Fredette have shared all the talk of the two best individual players in college basketball at this point.
Mid-major's doing well with BYU and San Diego State University.
San Diego State and St. Mary's is also in the top 25. You're looking at some good West Coast, mid-major West Coast schools are playing well. The Pac-10 is down, but those guys are fine. I'd say I'd say that Michigan State was actually my choice for biggest negative surprise coming in the season. So a good choice there, and I think you hit it with the loss to Penn State bringing that up. So we are one apiece into NBA segment. The NBA team that's headed in the right direction at this point.
In the right direction. There's a few teams you can pick. One I have is Philly right now, even though they are still going to be mediocre next year. But I'm talking about in a few years. Hiring Doug Collins was a good choice for them. He seems to be a good strategy guy. X's O's who got this team. They've already won almost as many home games last year. But
isn't it kind of just that last year was just a strangely down year, and they were actually decent from the year before?
They have the talent. They just have unperforming talent. Like there are a lot of teams like that. The Kings. Have a lot of talent. Nothing shown. One team going up, Golden State. I like them. Monte Ellis, has continuously been a good piece there. And there's a lot of different teams. It's just a lot of these teams need that extra piece to get into the next tier. Because basketball, it's always
who's the up and coming next team?
I mean, I'm looking a few years down the line, perhaps, but I think that if you just look at the core nucleus of these teams that aren't playing so well now, that have the players, one piece away, I would go with the Milwaukee Bucks. You look at I've always been fascinated with the youth, and they're only getting better with Bogut and Jennings as the core nucleus. You throw in a superstar, someone Melo-esque.
Will a superstar go to? They'll have to land him in the draft, won't they?
They will.
It's like I live in Sacramento. I know we're not going to attract free agents. It's true. You have to get lucky. Is what
I see. You have Bogut and Jennings, a few other young players there, like Michael Redd's on his way out, and I'd rather build around those rather than say like an Iguodala or someone in Philly.
Surprised nobody said the Clippers.
The Clippers?
Yeah.
They might already be there.
I mean, they won 11 of 15, and they're on the way up right now, even, and then next year. Let's see. NBA team on the decline. Team headed the wrong direction.
I would probably have to go with
who's losing pieces. You said these other teams are one piece away. Who's losing pieces?
I guess it's an obvious choice, but the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, the Nuggets.
They're looking to unload everyone. Chauncey and Melo. They really don't know their direction. The fans are booing Carmelo the other night.
Next 5 years. I don't know. They think that's good. They're booing Carmelo. It's just kind of a side note.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's still come down between the Nuggets and the Knicks. He's pretty much said that openly. That's where only places he'll sign contracts. So you really don't want to boo him, like Melo said himself afterwards. I think it was Kobe made the comment about it. He said that you don't want to boo your own player because that's just going to force him out. And right now, especially that the Nets are out of it, Melo could stay. He could be in there, be a Nugget for the rest of his career.
I think Melo just wants that drama, to be the center of attention. LeBron James' decision is just going to draw this out continuously.
It's always been overshadowed.
He's always been one of those superstars who just is a superstar and wants to be, wants to be able to control a team.
Right.
And so he's going to draw
I've
this
always
out.
thought that he wanted to be LeBron James.
Nuggets, though,
that's how I've always felt about Carmelo.
Nuggets, have a lot of those administrative issues right now. Teams that are going nowhere. I look at the Pistons right now. They just have so many veterans on that team trying to make something from nothing.
But you can't build,
T-Mac, Rip, they need to get some youth in there. They need to totally reform. Nets also, they have such
now they're really in trouble.
The draft picks, Favors.
But nothing has happened. Favors, I agree, can become, but they expected to come into the season. New owner. You thought they were going to get John Wall, but Favors is still good. But they
thought they were going to get LeBron.
They haven't been able to add any other pieces. They haven't been able. They just look like a disaster at this point.
I still think they're looking pretty good, especially with their draft picks and their young core nucleus. So I could see them only a few seasons or next season contending. Even.
Talking about a team that looks good, the Spurs are outclassing everyone in the Western Conference right now, up by, I want to say 3.5 games over the Lakers at the moment in the Western Conference. Are they going to be there at the end of the season? Are they going to win the playoff series? Are they going to represent the Western Conference in the finals?
Yes, I absolutely believe they do. They're the best team across the board, you know, in all different stats. And it's all about, I believe it's all about injuries. You know, if they can keep their top three, their Duncan, Ginobili, Parker healthy, continuing to play at a high level, they're going to be fine the entire rest of the season. It's just you never know. You know, any of those core pieces could go down. They instantly take a dive fall. Saw what happened with Dallas. You know, when Nowitzki was hurt, Butler came hurt. They haven't been doing as well. So
the Lakers going to turn it on for the playoffs. The Mavericks going to come out.
I do believe, you know, maybe Homer here, but I think that the Lakers they have what it takes to win the West again. They've won it the last 2 years.
They're so clutch.
You look at, I mean, especially because just their lineup top to bottom. They added Steve Blake, Matt Barnes. Like the bench has only gotten better. Bynum's back, playing awesome.
You look at them, though, they're just not winning the games they should have won last year and the years before. We're losing these by 9 points, you know, 10 points, 109 to 100.
All right, I think that you're pretty good with saying the Sixers on that. I think you might be dealing with problems. Yeah, there's some residual talent still left over from 2 years ago when they were actually decent. Yeah. But at the same time, compared to where they were last year, they look like a team that's on the up. Like I said, I'm surprised nobody said the Clippers. The teams on the decline. Nuggets, you pointed out the correct one. The Pistons are also in serious trouble. I'm going to agree with you and say that the Spurs have what it takes to be there at the end. The Lakers, I think there's something. Yes, they're finishers, but they're not seemingly taking it seriously right now.
Bynum coming back and playing well is going to set them straight.
I've never thought he was worth what Lakers fans think he is. But San Antonio, I think, will be there at the end, and I'll give the point retroactively back to you if I'm wrong.
Rotations only from outside this country.
There you go.
Parker, Ginobili.
So Hanks takes the third segment, takes a 2-1 lead, and now with your back against the wall, we'll talk GW basketball. The 2 games this past week, Harvard and Richmond. What can we take away from those games?
I think, you know, there's a lot of things. You look at just the variation between the 2 games and who the scores were for GW, and it's a little inconsistent. But I think the main thing is that GW needs to work on free throws. You look at especially the second half numbers.
Again, we have to talk about this again.
That's where they faltered. They went 20 for 28 against Harvard. That would have been the difference. They went 12 for 18 against Richmond. That's what
6 points,
like 4 points away from the difference. You know, it makes a difference here. Like watching GW get to the line, and as a team only shoots 6-13, which is, you know, relatively low, a little lower than the contending teams in the A10. Games are won and lost on the line, and it's indicative of the young team that we have. So,
yeah, it's strange that, you know, the last few years our big men have been our best free throw shooters. GW's kind of backwards.
Damian Hollis,
Apoku was one of our best free throw shooters besides Damian Hollis, but he's automatic. Right. Last year, Katuka is one of the better ones besides Tony. You know.
Yeah, it's really Tony's carrying that percentage up. He's the only one shooting free throws well.
Yeah, and even he has a history of, you know, clutch misses last year.
Let's try getting Dwayne Smith to make a free throw at an important moment in a game. It's so brutal. I mean, it seems like we live and die by the jumper already, and it's bad enough that now we have to live and die by the free throw. You think? I mean, as the Colonial Brass always says, why they call them free. What do you think is?
I mean, free throws is one thing, but second half adjustments for this coach. Hobbs has been, this year when they got on a roll, it seems he has a pretty good game plan against these guys. Against Richmond, you're watching, we're up in the first half. You know, we did our traditional, you know, heavy defense, full court press, which you get your risk reward. And it worked out for us. They just adjusted. We couldn't stop them, you know, in the second half. And same thing happened at a lot of the other games this year, like Harvard. One thing looking at is also feeling the absence of a guy who can create shots, like Lasan Chroma from last year. You know, at the end you saw Tony Taylor trying to create shots, and he was the only one leading this team. We've always had terrible penetration against the zone, and we just do not have these offensive scorers who can create their own shots. Dwayne Smith is probably the only guy who can slash well and try to create the shots for himself. He's putting up the points, but this just team's lacking.
And he's Canadian. But I thought it was interesting if you look at Tony Taylor's statement after the Richmond game, where he said that they switched to a 3-2 zone at halftime, that being Richmond, and it totally stymied the Colonials' offense. They weren't able to do anything. Do we put that on Coach Hobbs for not telling the team something that could allow them to figure out this defense?
I'm not sure Hobbs has much more. Like you said, we win and lose by the jumper. The wheel offense focuses on, it's like a spread offense. Yep. It's outside shooting. We literally, If Mikic is on, if the rest of the team is shooting well from outside, that's where we're winning the games, and that's where we're losing them. You know, down low, hopefully, next few years, and which we'll talk about later probably, the big play will get better, but I don't think with the personnel he has and with the offense he runs that Hobbs has really any alternative. He's got to make that work.
Perfect segue. He could host the show. So Joseph Katuka, the only real big man on this team right now, is graduating at the end of this season, or at the end of this school year. Who's the big man to replace him next year?
It's the top recruit, and I don't know how long, Eric Copes. He's 95 on SportsCenter, 6th best center in the country so far, coming in from high school, and he's definitely going to be a cornerstone of this team next year and building onto hopefully tournament runs and getting possibly going up the ladder in the A10, because you're going to have a lot of a good core around him. He's a great defensive player, is what mostly he's coming out of. So I feel like also Katuka. He's developed a little bit more this year.
He's progressed.
He has about a double-double average right now. So we might lose a little bit on offense with him, but the fact that we're adding another guy, Davis, and then also Lasanne's going to be coming back, I feel that defensive help and the offense can come from somewhere else.
I will have to agree with you and Copes. I don't think there are that many other options. Warren's not going to be stepping up.
You don't feel like they'll choose a
dude,
little bit of experience at the beginning of the season, next season, Damon Warren, to kind of to help the freshman through?
I think maybe he can help in an auxiliary role, but Copes is the defensive and rebounding monster that we need. And like you said, 6th best in the nation, so only positive hopes for that.
Warren can continue helping on D, but his offensive game just looks like Jabari.
Yeah.
I'd say
that's true. I'd say it's for the second week in a row we're going to have a 5th decisive segment here on Unstoppable because I think you brought us right back to what we hate talking about here on Unstoppable, and that's GW missed free throws. We have to talk about it way too much, but I think you brought it there right away, and that's an important thing to consider. I think you're right that maybe it's not the coach's responsibility to necessarily fix it in that situation. You can't offer anything more than just getting the players to execute what they're supposed to be executing. I think you make the good point with Copes. I'm still inclined to say that there'll be a learning curve for him, even if he's such a highly rated player, but freshmen have played well for Hobbs the last few seasons, so that's something that could
Hobbs
be good.
getting extension. What are we doing?
Jeez.
Keep the coach
save that for the next episode of Unstoppable. Onto the NHL,
Danielle.
Canada's favorite sport. Let's see. Sidney Crosby.
Dwayne Smith would be watching right now.
Dwayne Smith probably is watching right now. Sidney Crosby, before being concussed, had an incredible season going. But who's been the 2nd best player in the NHL this season to this point?
I was looking at the stats for Tim Thomas, and they're very, very good. He has a 1.83 average, goal average against. He's won the tops in saves, and he's looking like he looked 2 years ago when he won the trophy for goalies. I forget what it is. They have 1 million trophies in the NHL. The Hart Trophy, maybe, I don't know.
They should call it the Patrick Waugh Award.
But he's looked amazing this season. He's one of the reasons Boston is where they are, because they don't have a lot. They have they have some depth, but they don't have that many superstars in their team to put up goals. But I really like looking at him and seeing what he's producing this year, and he looks back the shape he was 2 years ago.
And you think someone like that could end up winning I believe it was the Hart Award, the best player in the NHL? If Crosby can't come back
it's so rare for a goalie to win that. I think he, second behind Crosby, if Crosby continues the points, I think Crosby will win. And I think it's always going to be an offensive player to win this.
Yeah.
But he's definitely, in spot to win the trophy for goalie and is the best goalie right now in the National Hockey League.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with Stamkos. Steve Stamkos, you look at the numbers, he's right up there with Crosby.
Gets a lot of attention, too.
He's been out, but he has, he's more goals than Crosby. There's no one even close to those two. Assists, he's got only a few less. He's leading his team to a 28-15-5 record. And Crosby's team is 29-15-4. So they're right up there, neck and neck, and I think it can go either way. And I think that
Tampa
unfortunately
Bay, though, has a lot more pieces around them. He's putting amazing stats, but he's been good. They have LeCavier is having a great season for them. Martin St. Louis is one of the fastest players in the NHL, and they have a great lineup. And one of the things, their goaltending has also been decent for them. Helping them win these games that he's leading them to. So I think he has a little bit more help.
I liked it better when we were kids in Tampa Bay.
Pittsburgh in the past few years has been good. They have a great team. Every year they have a team on paper that can win, and the Lightning haven't. Like St. Louis and
they won the Stanley Cup
3
years ago. Isn't that what it was? 2 years ago?
They won in 03, I think.
It was that long ago?
Yes.
Wow, that makes me feel old.
I think it was 04.
That makes me feel
04?
old.
It was one of those.
That makes me feel so old.
But it was. I see. the circulation coming over from they won, then they have the down years when they got rid of the players, and now their youth and their veterans have
coming back,
you know, rebuild, and that's what has merged. All these players are playing at high level and helping each other out. So they've emerged well this year.
Goaltender, winning second best player.
A goaltender.
That's bold.
It's a risky comparison. Thomas is
dominant.
Thomas
is
been very, very
extremely
good.
dominant this year.
And right now you've got a couple contenders for the President's Trophy, the team with the most points at the end of the regular season. Who do you see coming out on top at the end of the season?
I think the Flyers are going to maintain their course. They right now are leading the entire NHL, both conferences in points, and I think they're about in front about 7 points, 6 or 7 points. They have great team depth, and always the Achilles heel the last few years have been the goaltending. They seem to have a great rookie in Sergei Bobrovsky. Boucher's playing, like he played 10 years ago when he was a rookie. He's also, doing extremely well, and their depth, the fact that they have about, I think, 6 or 7 guys who have over 10 goals. They have 3 guys tied with 40-plus points on their team is just amazing. That's the reason they're winning this year, is that no other team can match them in the third, fourth lines.
Is somebody going to catch him?
I think that it's very likely that Vancouver does. I think if you look at how the Sedins are playing, they also have 3 players with 40-plus points, both Sedins, any relation there. Kessler, they're all up there, and the Sedins are in like the top 5 with overall points, and
a lot of people have jumped on that Canuck bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, and Luongo's always there. And if you look at the numbers up and down, just with the defense as well, they have 7 players in double-digit plus-minus. And I think that, hockey has that one stat that's a little underrated, where it just matters, like ice presence can really be indicative if you're going to win.
Top plus-minus right now is Meseros, the new defenseman for the Phillies, or for the Flyers, Philadelphia Flyers, and he's looking well. I think
it's a player swap between the Philly teams.
I think though, one thing about the conferences though to look at, the Flyers, they have the Oilers, have a lot more games against the Oilers and the Devils, who are just not on the top tiers.
Yeah.
Some other
the West
teams
might be a weaker conference in general.
They're both very even this year.
Why aren't the Sharks winning the Western Conference?
Nabokov left, and they're terrible.
All right, let's see. Now I've got the decision. Who will be unstoppable this week? It's a tough one. I think it's a bold pick going with a goaltender, but as a soccer goalkeeper myself, I appreciate it. But Stamkos is having a great season. Presidents, I think it's going to be really tough for anybody to catch the Flyers. The Flyers have been dominant all season at this point, and they have a little bit of a lead. I see them finishing the season on top. Whether they make it all the way through the playoffs, through that tough East, that'll be yet to see. But the President's Cup, the President's Trophy, I think will be in Philadelphia at the end of the season, and a win for longtime unstoppable contestant Andrew Hanks. And is that 2 in 2 weeks? Did you win last week? No, you went down.
No,
went
down to Austin
last week. That's right.
I think it was 3-2.
Went down to Austin. All right. Well, into rapid fire for one last chance to redeem yourself. Let's see. Eric Stahl and Nikki Lidstrom were named the All-Star Game captains. Were they good choices?
I really don't think so. I think you got to go with what everyone knows is coming, and it's Ovechkin and Crosby.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that they
this new
totally
system is all about getting people to watch. You want the 2 most exciting
players.
players.
Then they don't get to play together. That's the whole point of this draft system. You want to see them play together.
But they're not.
It's a pickup game. You want the 2 best players picking, and then you go from there.
That's how it works.
Lindstrom has been the steady veteran. One of the top players in the Western Conference from one of the best teams. And then you have the Stahl. They're playing. You got to remember they're playing in Raleigh this year.
Okay.
That's
why they did that. No,
he
that's
led
absolutely
them to
what
the Stanley Cup in
No,
06.
that's absolutely
I
what
think
they
you're
did.
going for excitement as they've structured the whole game.
All right, well, let's see. We've got the Yankees have a little drama going on in their clubhouse with Brian Cashman and the Steinbrenners. A debate over whether or not they should have paid Rafael Soriano to come be their setup man. Good idea, bad idea?
I really, I'm going to agree with Cash here, and I'm going to say it wasn't the best idea. The Yankees in the past may have made this deal and been fine throwing all that pocket change around, but he's right. It's his job to get a good, solid payroll and to make decisions for the long term. And Soriano, it feels like they just didn't get Cliff Lee, so they need another way to spend money.
I feel like that's supposed to be Cashman's job. He's the GM of the
but they need relievers. The Yankees, they got rid of on the offseason Kerry Woody, Jobber is your setup man. A baseball draft picks.
Jabba Chamberlain. I just laugh just thinking about Jabba Chamberlain.
Because you can find other players deep in the draft. It's all about the player you develop and the player you want. But I think they do need reliever help, and why not? This guy had a great year last year. He's open. He's out for your setup man in front of Mariano. I think he's going to absolutely help them.
Okay. The LeBron James has found another way to make it on all of our television screens, other than every game of the Heat being nationally televised this season. It's going to start on YouTube and might get picked up, called LeBronimation, an animated show.
Fox is
They've already
waiting
started talking about it.
in the background.
They already started talking about it. They joke that they were saying they would jokingly call it the Cleveland Show. But is it a good idea or a bad idea for LeBron to do something like this, a kids show? No?
I'm not a LeBron fan, and I never have been. He's a great player. But this is, if he wants to, go ahead. This is just strange. What has happened over the last, year, few months? It's just become into odd, fandom. Things like this and the decision.
He thinks he's Tiger Woods pre-accident.
Maybe for a different athlete it would be a good decision, but again, same thing. Seen LeBron come out of college, his mentality, the things he's like
out of high school.
The ideals and morals he's teaching players, you usually cherish loyalty and staying with the team. And doing that and leaving and talking all this to the media, and I don't think that's necessarily the best picture you want to give kids. And
all right,
I think LeBron just needs to get out of the media presence, and he can't.
No, he doesn't want to
stop. He needs to take a little time off, but there's no way he can.
That's true. Two of the most Carmelo will want that spotlight in the offseason. The two of the most talked about players in the NBA this season, Kevin Love and Blake Griffin, both incredibly exciting, very hard-working, blue-collar player type guys. Who would you rather have on your team?
Griffin, just putting on the numbers he is, Love's. They're both having a great season, but
Love's a rebounding machine.
The way Griffin's come in, and the numbers he put up and expanding the Clippers, the way they're doing well, it just seems like he had a little bit more.
Love is like a walking mic and drill.
Maybe he has a little bit more around him.
Yeah. I mean the stats. I think the other day it was 28 and 27 straight double doubles for both of them. The stats are both right there. Griffin clearly is more exciting, but. Love is there's not many conventional big men down low teaching the NBA how to rebound. You think look guys like Rodman, and they're severely underrated. So
all right, well that'll do it for this edition of Unstoppable. Hope you enjoyed it, Andrew. Unstoppable today. Chris Rossi, our guest, stoppable today. But we hope we'll see you back here. We'll be back here in 2 weeks, so we'll see you then. I'm Chris Geissler. We'll see you in about 3 hours. Stay tuned to Channel 61.
3 hours.